Hi, everyone. Welcome to First and North. My name is Lou Canellis at Fox 32 in Chicago. Joining me this week on First and North, the voice of the Lions from Fox 2 in Detroit, Dan Miller. Welcome back, Dan. From Fox 6 Milwaukee, Tim Van Vorn. Been a few weeks. Great to have Tim back. And from Fox 9 in Minneapolis, Ahmad Hicks. Great to always see Ahmad. NFC playoff field. Set 4 teams fighting to get to the NFC Championship game. Number 1 seed Seattle with a rematch against 6 seed San Francisco. 2 seed Bears play host to the 5 seed Rams. All right, I'm going to start things off, guys. We watched this Bears movie all season long. Packers, unfortunately, Tim, I know you guys saw it 3 times. One time you got away with it, the other 2, Cardiac Bears, never out of it. 3 games with the Packers this year. This is an amazing stat. I don't know if you heard, Tim. The Bears did not run a single offensive play with a lead. 0. And the Packers ran 108 plays while in front. The comeback Saturday night, one of the greatest ever, 4-team in NFL history, to trail by 15 or more points in the fourth quarter and still come back to win. Ironically, that kind of comeback hadn't happened since Patriots-Falcons, Super Bowl. 2 guys who played in that game. Joe Thuney, who was on New England, Grady Jarrett, who played for Atlanta, both on the Bears roster. Both talked to their teammates during training camp about being involved in that comeback. And at halftime Saturday night against the Packers, Ben Johnson referenced that Super Bowl comeback again and told his Bears that they were going to pull off the greatest comeback in Bears history. Sure enough, it was the greatest ever in Bears postseason history, 25 fourth-quarter points, and it was total chaos in the locker room after.
Hell yeah!
There's a rivalry that exists between these 2 teams, something that I fully recognize and I'm a part of. And yeah, I mean, there's some, I don't like that team. So George and I have talked, and we're on the same page.
And Keyshawn Nixon, all the guys talking. Even the DC was kind of talking about telling the media in Green Bay that we're going to see you next week. So we heard that loud and clear.
There's probably a little bit more noise coming out of their building up north to start the week, which we heard loud and clear, players and coaches alike. So this one meant something to us.
They wanted us. That's what I heard. They wanted it, and they got it.
Hey, Tim, let me ask you, do the Packers dislike the Bears as much as the Bears dislike the Packers?
I don't know. The Bears are going to be in the Packers' heads now, if they weren't already. Personally, I love that there's this much salt back in this rivalry. You and I, Lou, have been doing this rivalry story for years, and you try to create, hey, guys in the locker room, it's Bear Week, and they'd kind of go, ho-hum, no big deal. Guess what? Next year, that won't be the reaction at all. The Bears are for real. The Bears players believed, and they obviously embodied what their coach and their team was all about. The Packers were trying to hang on to that thing, and the Packers are kind of trying to hang on in this division. And obviously the Lions have made their move up, and I think the Bears have made a legitimate move up now. So do the Packers fear the Bears, hate the Bears? I don't know, but the Bears are in their heads now.
I want to bring in Ahmad, and I'll bring in Dan in a second, but let me ask you this question, Tim, because I really felt that the key in that game was the Bears' defense turning the game around in the second half, forcing the Packers to punt on 4 straight drives. Offense finally got it going. It kept Green Bay's defense on the field. And in my eyes, it looked like that Packers defense on the final 2 drives was a bit gassed when Caleb Williams was doing his magic with the jump man, Michael Jordan comeback. Number 1, before you answer, what did you think happened to the Packers? And first, listen in, because I want you to hear the Packers locker room, which was, and I know you were there, you were in that locker room, you were here in Chicago, but for the folks watching and for Dan and Ahmad, this was the Packers locker room, which was a lot different from the Bears.
It's tough and very disappointing. I think everybody in that locker room feels the same way. We had a game where, we couldn't finish it.
Just heartbreaking,
My role on the team is to make kicks, and these guys pour in, thousands of plays over the course of the season, and I leave 7 points on the board today. So, like I said, most disappointing part of my career ever.
No disrespect to them, but it ain't they did. It's us. It's us. We gotta finish. We whooping that whole game. Like that's us. We gotta finish. They ain't do special. We gotta finish. We ain't finished last time. We ain't finished this time. So that's some we gotta work on within us.
Tim, what happened to the Packers?
Love the Javon Bullard. He's become a regular go-to in the locker room, and our bleep button is ready every time we go over there. All right, Javon. All right, bleep, bleep, bleep. I agree with you, Lou. Start of the second half was the key to the game. The Packers came out. They had the ball. They got the second half kickoff, and the Bears were so much more aggressive defensively. They took it right to them. To me, the game flipped right there in terms of attitude, and then the Packers were just in that hang-on mode, and they couldn't do it. They lost Edgerrin Cooper, a good defensive, quick linebacker who might have had something to do with maybe chasing down Caleb Williams along the way. Things broke a little bit against the Packers in that game, but credit the Bears. They took it to them. They beat them. The locker rooms were a drastic contrast. You're exactly right. And that's why the Bears, who were underdogs at home, I'm sure Ben Johnson had that card going all week too, they're able to advance, and the Packers are into the offseason.
Hey, Dan, Lions played both teams, actually beat the Bears the prior game. Give me your takeaway.
I thought the Packers didn't play a particularly smart game offensively in that second half. Look, you got a running back that's a hammer back there. They really didn't use him. It seemed like they were throwing basically on 80% of the plays in the second half. I just thought they let that game get away from them a little bit by not controlling the football. Chicago can't come back if you can control the ball and get some first downs, and Green Bay didn't do a good enough job of that. So, look, you got to know after watching Chicago all year long, they may be down, but they're not out. And I just don't think Green Bay played that way. And, yeah, McManus can't miss those kicks. If you find a way to make those kicks, you're kicking a field goal at the end to win instead of needing a touchdown. So there's a trickle-down effect that happens with a number of small mistakes, and it can be death by 1,000 cuts. And I think that's ultimately what it was for Green Bay.
Such a good point. Ahmad, what surprised you in that game?
Just the way they came out in the second half. I thought they were really conservative. My significant other, Simone, she used to work in Milwaukee, so she's a huge Packers fan right now, and she was just freaking out. And I told her, I said, Matt LaFleur right now in the second half is playing not to lose instead of playing to win. He lost that aggressiveness that they had in that first half, and I think those first 3 drives in the second half really told you the story of the game and probably how things are going to boil down. And ultimately, Brandon McManus didn't help his team out by missing those field goals. And as Simone said, they need to get rid of him and go find somebody who can make kicks, because that's their only job is to make kicks. She's a little harsh, but she took that loss, pretty brutally. I
bet she did. Ahmad, I'm going to keep it with you, because before we talk about the Vikings offseason, today we learned Jordan Addison arrested in Florida for probable cause trespassing. Addison's had run-ins with the law in the past. He was suspended the first 3 games of this season after he was arrested on suspicion of DUI. How are the Vikings going to handle this?
They're going to handle it in the house, as they always do, but they certainly aren't happy with this guy. I mean, he's had a run-in with the law since he's been drafted here with the Minnesota Vikings. They just want him to have a good offseason like he did last year, but here he is. Not even 3 weeks into your offseason, and you're already, having a mugshot out there. So they won't be happy about this. I'm sure their representatives have already reached out to Jordan's representative and to him, exclusively, and had a conversation about cleaning it up. I know Justin Jefferson spoke about him being a little, I won't say immature, but younger, and saying that he needed to do a better job of taking him under his wing to make sure he's on the right track, and doesn't look like he did that just yet.
Hey, Dan, Lions owner Sheila Hamp had a message for Lions fans. Can you share the details?
Yeah, basically saying not good enough, and they understand that, and they're going to do a full run through of the organization to make sure that they get it right next year. And, they've kind of backed and said this doesn't call for drastic change, but it does give them the opportunity, as you see right there, to refocus, evolve, and move forward. And I think that's been the message from Dan Campbell, who gave himself an F for the year, from Brad Holmes, who gave himself a failing grade from the year, and now from the owner, Sheila Hamp, who all said this just is not good enough. It does not meet the standard that they believe they have set with this new regime. And I think that's what fans want to hear. Now, you can also get wrapped up in, well, they're not going to make drastic changes. Listen less to what they say and pay attention more to what they do. We know where the holes are on this football team. We know where they have to get better. Let's see how they attack that during the offseason. I think these first couple of weeks we spend way too much time parsing words and or emails. I want to see what the actions are to make this team better, because some of the problems that they have were illuminated this past season. And look, I don't think they're that far off. I still think if you look at this roster, it is deep and talented, but there are holes and they have to attack those. And I think Sheila Hamp wants people to know, yeah, they're going to do that. Brad Holmes said, yeah, they're going to do that. Dan Campbell said, yeah, they're going to do that. And I think they will. I think this will be an active offseason for this team, and I think it has to be.
Yeah, speaking of Brad Holmes, general manager, here is Holmes.
Look, bottom line is, for our standards, this was a disappointment. All right, when we set out for this journey for this season, it wasn't to match last year's record or exceed last year's record. It doesn't really matter what the record is. Bottom line is, if we're not in the dance and we're not competing for a championship, it's a failure.
In those critical games, we were not playing complementary football. In those moments, and that's really on all three phases. It was sometimes offense, defense, special teams. It was a collective thing where little parts were letting us down, and we were losing these close games. And we ended up 9-8, but it just wasn't enough to get us in. And that was it was unfortunate, but we're all looking forward to next year.
Dan, Lions making moves already. They fired offensive coordinator John Morton and interviewed former Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel. Is McDaniel a good fit?
Well, he's one of several that we've seen connected to this job, and I think the first thing you have to figure out is, will McDaniel be available? Because he's a popular guy interviewing for head coaching jobs, and he'll be a candidate for every offensive coordinator job that comes up as well. I watched him during the season with the thought that he could well be fired, and I wondered, because it was apparent the Lions were going to need an offensive coordinator, how he would fit in. I just want to know how he and Dan Campbell vibe, because, listen, McDaniel, we've seen him. I think he's a heck of a coach, but he's a different cat. And I want to see how that works with Dan Campbell. And I also need to know that McDaniel has that commitment to the run that you look for when you're working for Dan Campbell, because they want to establish the run. They want that to be a part of their personality. They want that offensive line to be front and center. That's part of what's got to be rebuilt this offseason. So, look, zero questions about his ability to produce. I just need to know, when they sit down in a room, do they see eye to eye? Does it work? Because that's really important. As we see all these coordinators getting fired, it's not just about production, which is obviously paramount, but it's also about how do you fit in the room together, and are you all moving as one in one direction? And that's what I want to know. When they talk, when they meet, how does that go?
Tim, before I ask you about Matt LaFleur, here's what the players are saying about if they want LaFleur back.
Matt's one of the best guys and people, like as a person. I've been around since I've been in this league. I reached out to him when I started seeing this, and I said, man, when I agreed to come here, like, you were part of the reason why I came here. I want you a part of this, and I love you, and I think you're a great coach.
I'm not too much concerned about Matt. I feel like the fans put way too much pressure on him on what they feel like he should be at, but at the end of the day, he's still, since he's been a head coach, the most winningest coach in this league. Like, I think we take it for granted how much just winning is, and how much winning he does. I think that he's become a great leader since I've been here, and I know what he means to the players. So, I mean, speaking for myself, I'm going to stand firm on, wanting him to be the head coach.
Tim, does LaFleur deserve a contract extension?
I think he's going to be offered a contract extension. It's a matter of how much value is on that contract extension. Does it reach where he thinks he is worth? If not, maybe he tries to look elsewhere. The Packers move him elsewhere. If it does, then he stays in Green Bay. I think the Micah Parsons vote there was as strong as anything in what you've heard. The player response, I was in the locker room for locker cleanout yesterday, very positive toward Matt LaFleur. But, Dan talks about the trickle-down effect. That is what's happened to the Packers in the last few years, and that's how Matt LaFleur is being judged. Yes, he's a tremendous regular season winner. And there's context with these key losses and untimely inefficiency. But they're 1-5 in their last 6 playoff games. Minnesota, Detroit, Chicago, all those teams have a division title more recently than the Green Bay Packers. That's what he's being judged by as well.
I bet. All right, we need to take a timeout. Another big fish hits the coaching market. We'll tell you who. And did we see the last of Aaron Rodgers on Monday night? We'll discuss next here on First and North.
final word for Chicago sports fans.
This is what we wanted to see from the Bears.
Chicago Sports Tonight, covering the big plays.
Touchdown Bears!
And the next moves. Join Luke, Cassie, and Tina. Chicago Sports Tonight, weeknights at 9:30 on Fox 32 Chicago.
Welcome back to First and North. Lou Cadellis at our Fox 32 studios in Chicago. Dan Miller is from Fox 2 in Detroit. Tim Van Voren, Fox 6 in Milwaukee. And Ahmad Hicks in Minneapolis at Fox 9. All right, guys, I'm going to start with the growth of Caleb Williams. I was thinking about this earlier today, so I wanted to share it with everyone. Williams dealt with tough love during training camp from Ben Johnson. Matter of fact, it was so tough that he didn't think his coach liked him. He referenced this a couple of weeks ago. And today, it's fair to say that without Williams, the Bears, they're not even in the playoffs. He earned the respect of the locker room, of the veterans that are leading this team now, 7 comebacks this season. And he's earned the right to chew out teammates on the sideline like he did during Saturday's game when he let Luther Burden have it. He is the guy responsible for the slow first half starts. He is the guy who's accountable when Luther Burden runs the wrong route and Caleb throws the pick. Ben Johnson loves to run the football. Even admitted this week that Williams shines late in games because the Bears are forced to pass because they're trailing on during games, and he's throwing on most downs, and it allows Williams to get into a throwing rhythm. So I think even Johnson, and he admitted this, it's become a balancing act as a play caller because he loves to run the football, but now he's understanding the value of a guy like Caleb Williams and what he can deliver as a quarterback. Remember, the guy just turned 24 years old in November. He is carrying the weight of the franchise, the weight of what is now a crazy Bears City, and his move in the locker room, and I don't know if you guys saw it after Saturday's game, he gave Ben Johnson the game ball. The same Ben Johnson who delivered such tough love at the beginning of this season, and it shows how this kid is mature beyond his years. All right, I want to get into Mike Tomlin now. Steelers head coach stepped down today after 19 years. Steelers suffered their 7th consecutive first-round playoff exit. They fell to the Texans on Monday night, 30-6. Dan, this guy went 19 seasons without a losing record. I mean, that's miraculous. He's only 53 years old. Do you think he's the hottest name on the coaching market now?
I think he might be, but it's a question of what he wants to do. I don't know if he's hotter than John Harbaugh. I think certainly there could be a contest there, but they're both proven commodities, whereas a lot of these coordinators that teams are talking to are not. So there's a track record, and I think that means something. Here's what jumps out, though. The first thing that jumps out to me is, who's Pittsburgh going to get now? You've had basically 3 coaches, and that's it. How does the next guy live up to that? Because the history they have there in Pittsburgh is off the charts. And Lou, in particular, you and I could talk about teams that have just cycled through head coaches, and that's a way of life. It is not that way in Pittsburgh. But look, 0-7 in his last 7 playoff games, and that is just not acceptable in Pittsburgh. I felt when I saw them lose that game, and look, they're not very good, and we shouldn't have lost to them. I don't know how they actually made the playoffs. They're just not a particularly good team. I'm not surprised that they lost. But when I saw that, I thought either Pittsburgh's going to be done with him or he's going to be done with them. What does he want to do next? I don't know. He could certainly go someplace else and find a lot of success. The other thing he can do, guys, is move right into a cushy TV gig like Bill Cowher did and make a lot of money with a lot less stress.
Yeah, he'd have a couple of guys out there, a couple of networks vying for his services. Pittsburgh's 30-6 loss to Houston. Also, the end of the line for Aaron Rodgers. How about it?
No, I mean, I'm not going to make any emotional decisions. Disappointed, obviously such a fun year, a lot of adversity, but a lot of fun. Been a great year, overall in my life in the last year, and this is, a really good part of that, coming here and being a part of this team. So it's disappointing to be sitting here with the season over.
Tim, do you think Tomlin's decision will have any effect on what Rodgers decides to do?
I think it makes it less likely that he would go back to Pittsburgh. I'd say that. If he plays again, I'm assuming that there may be somewhere else. I don't think a new coach there is probably going to start with a 40-plus-year-old quarterback. I'm not sure Rodgers is done. I take him at his word last night, or Monday night. Not going to make a decision, not going to announce a decision right now.
All right, Tim. Well, that's the perfect segue for Ahmad. Hey, if Rodgers says, I still believe I have some game left, but don't want to stay in Pittsburgh, not knowing who the head coach is going to be, what do you think, Ahmad? Would the Vikings be interested in Aaron Rodgers?
It's funny, I actually had a conversation with our sports director, Jim Rich, about this last night. And while he was uber talented, had all the arm talent in the world, I just don't know if he's a locker room fit for Kevin O'Connell and his system. Maybe the guys do need some calling out, but the way that Aaron Rodgers kind of approaches calling out his teammates, calling them out in the media, you know, pointing this out, his body language on the field, I just don't think that would be a good fit in Minnesota. Nonetheless, though, he can still play football, and if you surround him around the talented options that the Vikings have here offensively, maybe he does lead them to the playoffs. Who knows what he does in the playoffs? But, you know, if they need a quarterback and he's open to playing for 1 year, why not?
Locker room fit, great point. Many feel the biggest story wild card weekend had nothing to do with the play on the football field, rather the press room. Jacksonville Free Press reporter Lynn Jones-Turpin, she went viral on Sunday for giving words of encouragement to Jags head coach Liam Cohen after their loss to the Bills. Listen in.
How you doing today? Lynn Jones, Jacksonville Free Press News. I just want to tell you congratulations on your success, young man.
Thank
you.
You
Hold your head up, all right? You guys have had a most magnificent season.
Thank
you. And you did a great job out there today.
Appreciate
so you
it.
just hold your head up, okay?
Thank
and
you,
ladies
ma'am.
and gentlemen, Duval, you the one, all
Thank
right?
you, ma'am.
keep it going. We got another season, okay?
I appreciate
Take
it.
care and much continued success to you and the entire team.
Thank you, ma'am.
Guys, Lynn Jones-Turpin's comments have drawn all kinds of reaction. I saw Adam Schefter from ESPN. He thought it was awesome, and other sports journalists said it wasn't Jones-Turpin's job to comfort a head coach like that, and that she, you know, is supposed to be an unbiased member of the media, and many felt that she crossed the line. Ahmad, I'll ask you first, real quickly, what did you think?
I'm indifferent. I mean, would I have done it? No, but the game is changing. Like all of us, we had to go to journalism school. We had to check a lot of boxes to sit in the seats we're sitting in now, whereas people are getting hired because they have a lot of followers and because they look well on TV or they know somebody. So the game is changing, and you can be a podcaster and go in those same rooms and, you know, they don't have any cred. So I'm indifferent. I wouldn't have done it, but I'm also not bashing her for doing it.
Dan?
Not appropriate in my mind. She seems like a wonderful woman. It's just not the place for that. I know her intent was pure. Just not the place for that in my mind. I'll say this, though. I did not know a lot about Liam Cohen, and I've seen a couple of interviews with him in the past couple of weeks. A lot of coaches may not have been as patient as he was for her to get through that. As nice as she was, I give him a lot of credit. I've really enjoyed watching him interact with the media over the past couple of weeks. But in terms of that, look, I don't want to come down on her because, like I said, I know her intent was pure, but it's just not the place for her.
Hey, Tim, what do you think?
I'd follow up on Dan's point there. Her intent was obviously pure. I've never covered a Jaguars home press conference or Jaguars press conference. So to me, there's a vibe from team to team, and the way it's done, I would say entirely out of place on a Packers press conference.
Yeah, and I'll say this. Hey, no one, and you guys, I know you hear it every week with me, no one more biased than I when it comes to the Bears. I'm the biggest fan out there, and I talk about it on this show. I wouldn't do it in a press conference area, but I've said it enough on this show, and if people don't like it, obviously they don't have to watch. It's not what I want, but I am a Bears fan, and I'm okay with it. I'm a huge Chicago sports fan because I am from Chicago. I've lived it, breathed it for 61 years. All right, we need to take our final time out. We preview Bears-Rams right after this here on First and North.
You want to know the NFC North?
It's a heck of a division.
Only one call to make. First and North.
This show's all about homers.
Luke and Ellis leads a team of NFC experts.
Super Bowl or bust for the Green Bay Packers.
First and North. New episodes Tuesday nights at 6 on Fox Local or stream anytime.
And you too can win the division.
Welcome back to First and North. Here are the matchups for the divisional round around the NFL. Saturday, 3:30 Central Time. Number 1 seed Broncos host Josh Allen and the Bills. 7 o'clock here on Fox. Yes, Fox Chicago, Detroit, Minneapolis, Milwaukee. Number 1 seed Seattle hosts the Niners. Sunday, 2 o'clock Central, AFC. 2 seed New England hosts 5 seed Houston. 5:30 Central here in Chicago. 2 seed Bears host the Rams. All right, I'm going to start with you, Dan. Does the magic run out for the Bears on Sunday?
You know, I think it's an interesting place to get Matthew Stafford in the cold weather there where he can certainly play, but I want to know about that finger that he injured. I've seen Matthew with digits that were messed up before, and it can impact his throwing, and there are times where he is prone to throw interceptions. And the Bears, nobody's been better at taking the ball away than they have this year, so I think that's the key to me. If they can take the ball away, give Los Angeles a couple of empty possessions, that's their chance to win this game. You don't want to fall behind by 17 points against Stafford and anticipate that you're going to come back. I think that would be difficult to do. So this, to me, is a game that the Bears are going to have to start fast, steal some possessions, and get some points off them.
Real quickly, Seattle or San Fran?
San Fran. I'm not sure I trust Sam Darnold yet.
All right, real quickly, guys, let me get to you. I'm under a minute. Tim, you go first. Bears, Rams.
Soldier Field, I felt the voltmeter rocking, pegging twice in the last month. That place is going to be crazy. The Bears clearly believe, but the Rams win Sunday night.
Okay, and how about Seattle and San Fran?
I'll go San Fran.
All right. Ahmad.
I'm from St. Louis. The Rams were there for a long time. I'm rooting for the Rams. Bear down ends this weekend, unfortunately for you, Lou. And I also think San Francisco wins. I just love their coaching staff and what they're able to do.
I still love you and Tim. You guys have no idea. And by the way, obviously, the biased one is taking the Bears, and I think San Francisco is going back to the NFC Championship again for the fifth time under Kyle Shanahan. Great work, guys. Love always talking to you. For Tim, Dan, and Ahmad, I'm Luke Canellis. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week right here on First and North.